think right now it's time to introduce Dr. DeReef Jamison to let us know what is Africa-centered thought.
All right, so first of all, it's good to be here. And I feel at home here. Like most of you I just met or haven't met, but I feel at home in this space. And I want to thank y'all for creating like that community that you have and for welcoming me into your community, right? The class I'm teaching today is going to be an introductory, but African-centered thinking. So week one, I'll look at the archaeology and intellectual history of African Black psychology. That's what we're doing today. Then week two, African-centered perspectives on the psychology of racism and oppression. Should be S there, but so what I do in that, look at Fanon, look at Francis Cress Welsing, look at Bobby Wright. Yeah, those are the three that we'll look at there. Week three, reconstructing and constructing African-centered deep thought. And then week four, reconstructing and constructing African-centered deep thought, part two. And I'll show you the psychologists that we'll look at towards the end of that. So today what we're looking at is African-centered thought as seen through the lens of African Black psychology. So it's African-centered thought. Of course, I'm somewhat biased, right? Because I would argue that if you look at African-centered psychologists, that at the core, if you want to know African-centered thought, these African-centered psychologists laid like the blueprint. So what I want to do today, if you look at what I'm doing, is really I'm going to call it, it's an intellectual libation to these pioneers of African-centered thought through the lens of African Black psychology. So y'all with me? All right. The other thing I want to make sure we do is that it's cool to lecture, but I want to make sure we have class. Some people say have church. We can call it mbongi, whatever we want to call it. But I want to make sure I want to make it interactive. So I'm going to treat y'all just like we're in class. So I'm gonna ask questions. I'm gonna do some didactic type things where y'all talk back to me. But also, when we make a good point, I need y'all practice with me real quick. So when I say y'all say Okay, let's try one more time. Okay, all right. So at any given moment, I can ask you for the or you can just give me the if the point makes sense. Y'all feel it? Okay, all right. That's how the work. All right, so we start off with the archaeology of Africa. And the reason I had the African Black psychology, again, my gentleman, Baba Campbell, he said that he talked about this transition, that some people aren't ready for the African, and so this transition is African/Black psychology. All right, so what we have here with this archaeology are, what are places where people say that this African psychology started? Some people argue it started in ancient Kemet. Other people say it started with Francis Cecil Sumner. Other people say it started with the Association of Black Psychologists known as ABPSY. So these are some of the spots that people look at. Other people argue that it started with the Journal of Black Psychology. That's also published by ABPSY. And then there's this classic article called Voodoo or IQ. So these are the five points. Other people name others, but these are 5 points we can look at. So we'll go through some of these, and we can critique them as we go along. All right, so Sakhu. Sakhu carries a spiritual and philosophical weight that anchors Black psychology within an African-centered context. All right, that's fancy words for that. Sakhu means the illumination of the spirit, the illuminating of the eye and the soul of being, that which inspires. So Sakhu, but yet we talk about what? Psychology. So what these African psychologists, or these African-centered psychologists argue is that this fancy term they talk about transubstantiation, where you take the term and then the term loses its original meaning. So they argue that psychology goes back to the term Sakhu, which means the illumination of the soul. How does that differ from the definition of psychology that we normally think about? So psychology going back to Sakhu means the illumination of the soul. This talk of the soul and the spirit, where when people talk about psychology in the academic sense, what definition do they use of psychology in that context? So let's say we're in our intro to psychology class. What are they gonna say?
It's a mind.
The study of the mind. They might give you what else? The psyche, study of the behavior, right? The classic one, because psychology, we had to look at those pyramids of these pyramids of science, right? Or like if they look at the what they call the hard science or natural sciences. There's physics or chemistry at the top of that pyramid, right? So psychology sees itself at the top of the social science pyramid because of this idea that they're so scientific, right? So psychology talks about measurable, observable behavior. All right, y'all, for a quick second, measurable, observable behavior versus Sakhu being the study of the spirit. What's the conflict there? What's the difference there?
One is measurable and one isn't.
Say that again.
One is measurable and one isn't.
Y'all supposed to do what? Thank you. Yeah. Think about it, yes. Yeah. One is measurable, observable. All right, so and this is different for like black and brown folks, spiritual, but within a Western context, is spirit something you can see?
No.
No. So can you measure and observe spirit?
Cannot.
Can you quantify it at the 0.001 level?
No.
Okay, you can't do any of that. Right? All right. Well, with spirit, all right. So, but if you think on the can you see, how can you see spirit? Like I know we can see spirit through dreams, but what's another way that you can see spirit where spirit encompasses measurable, observable as well? So, energy. Okay. Oh, so. All right, let's do this. So energy. So let's say this. Y'all have like when Big Mama says things like, there's something about them that's just not right.
Right.
Something about the energy, something about their spirit that's just not right. And then later on you find out what? They ain't right. Yeah. So that was Big Mama noticing this I do this Sakhu, this spirit, and it manifests itself in behavior. All right, so y'all follow that? So Sakhu fits within that in that the core of the human being is the spirit, but it manifests itself in the behavior. So that's how Sakhu ties in.